job, I know.
See, it just seems like we did those hearings on consumers and DTE. It's been a year already. The hearings, DTE and consumers.
All the time.
I think they do more than once a year.
Whenever they have.
Every time they
Probably
have-
at least 6 months, isn't it?
Every time they want a rate increase,
Oh, okay,
because it has to go through the MPSC.
okay. Well, then we maybe just did do it not too long ago.
I think we did have one recently. You
I was
remember the
gonna
last
say, it seems like
time?
we just did.
Sorry,
You remember the last time consumers had? I mean, it's only been a couple months, hasn't it?
for what?
These consumers and DTE.
Oh, yeah, it's been a couple months.
Yeah. I think
Well,
it's
good,
more.
that makes me feel better.
yeah.
I'm not losing my mind totally then.
It doesn't
Just
seem
a
like
little
it's been a
bit.
year. It's only been a year. That's what.
Angie, thank you for letting us know when, like, those minutes you didn't put in until online, because otherwise I wouldn't look again. Once I looked at the agenda and looked at the package, I wouldn't look again.
Oh, you're welcome.
So thank you for doing
You're
that.
welcome, certainly.
I have them send email to everybody to remind them and to nail down the for the meeting.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Did you find your sunglasses?
Where I left them.
I was gonna say, I don't, were they in
Oh,
here?
they were on the chair.
Oh, they were in the chair.
And they're yours?
We were looking for them on the table.
That's-
Oh,
Oh, and I
Are
told
they
her, I said,
yours?
I don't think she had them here, because I never saw, I wouldn't have seen them.
Right, okay.
You use- Are they yours, Joe? Usually you have them on top of your head.
Yeah, no, I had them on the chair and I looked at that chair before I left and thought I had everything.
I never have everything, it doesn't seem like. And I should warn you, when we get the worse I get.
I did, but my printer got tired.
You know, Christine just now, she's had a heck of a month. She didn't go up to East Coast to bury her mother and her dad died before they got there. So they hadn't waited a little bit and did a funeral for both. I said, it's gotta be so hard. They're in their 90s, but still,
I like Kristen.
I do too.
And the
Boy,
last
talk
thing
about
she
hard
wants,
work.
the last thing she wants is credit.
Oh, no, I know. She works her bottom off.
Were you at the
Promise.
groundbreaking?
You what?
Were you at the groundbreaking?
I couldn't be one.
Kevin acknowledged her, and she just kind of wanted that.
Yeah, I wanted to be there. What day was that on? I'd be somewhere else. Thursday.
Yes.
I was at the doctor's office. Getting 10 shots right in the room. Trying not to squeal and scream and wail. And I didn't, but oh, the tears ran up my cheeks. Trying to jumpstart it again, and because the right leg just does not want to change. It's bigger than it was
Can I write
before.
on this?
What's that?
Can I write on this?
I don't care.
Stevie, did you call me the other day?
I did.
And you didn't leave me a message. What was that about?
Well, just don't say you're doing.
Okay. And you know what? I had to be at the lake that day and there was no coverage there until I come home and then my phone goes, ding, 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 ding.
Somebody dropped me, William dropped me off.
We have no, we're down on the
My
deep valley
computer
and
didn't
like
come in.
only 1 or 2 towers are down there.
This wasn't up his alley.
So thank you for
It's his
checking
day
it out.
off,
I'm doing
so he
okay.
is determined
Other
to
than
be
just saying I put
shirtless
10
and
shots in
shoeless.
that on Moon Friday.
And of course it's cold.
It hurts.
We're sitting.
Well, I had
there
one here today.
Yeah, putting
I
on a
had
shirt.
one here today.
Oh, yeah.
We opted to put the boot on. for
See,
a week.
at our house,
I
it's
should have
63
clean fresh
degrees
skin
inside.
last Monday.
Oh, cool. See, I wish that.
I love
did
it.
have not-
That's-
I started late.
Yeah, that was a good shot work for me. Because it seemed to
We're
be
on
like
concrete.
killer breast
So
skin.
We're gonna have to
Oh,
have these conversations.
Yeah.
And it's really nice because all
Our,
you have to do is
They
walk
are
down.
instead of-
Because it's like my
Wow.
house walk down.
It's still going.
And it's about 7, I'm like, I already know who I am.
But then again, this,
Nancy
yeah.
Yes.
The deal behind it.
Oh,
I do.
know.
Cass is
very much.
Of course, she's younger, so she's had the newer tree.
All right,
How have you
everybody, it's 6:00. Let's call this meeting to order. August 6th, regular village council meeting. Can we have a roll call,
August
please?
Certainly. Wales?
August 8th.
What did I say?
Six.
Wow.
Although I do
Didn't even know
appreciate
it.
you slowing.
It was
your
like,
down.
right there we go. And it is the 6th.
We just wanted to make sure you pay attention.
Wales?
Here.
Bishop is absent. Dunham?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Needham?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Seeking consent, approval of the regular agenda.
So.
I'll support.
All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Approved. Consent agenda, board members can request certain items to be removed from the consent agenda for discussion. A motion is in order to adopt all items not removed. After that motion is passed, discussion will occur on those items previously selected for removal. Seeking a motion for the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Supported.
Motion and support. All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Anybody opposed? Moving on to brief public comment. State your name, place of residence, and talk directly to me for 3 minutes or less if you can. Any public comment tonight? Thanks for coming. We have no presentations. Moving on to finance. You're on.
Right. We met today at 5:00 and we went over the current invoices, payroll reconciliations, monthly payroll, journal entries, and bank reconciliations. We make a motion that we pay the bills in the amount of $100,015.29. And the invoiced amount was $141,563.06.
Say that again.
The invoice
Yes,
$141,563.06.
thank you.
You're welcome.
You made the motion.
Yes.
I'll support it.
Motion and support. Any discussion? Roll call whenever ready.
Certainly. Bishop is absent. Dunham?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Needham?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Wales?
Yes.
Motion carries.
We also discussed FOIA officer and treasurer pay. And we are making a motion that we roll it into their pay.
No change, just rolling it into the.
Yeah, just no change.
Instead of
There's
a-
it's just- To put it in, it's just easier that way.
Is there a second to the motion?
I wanted to say that again.
Can you second the motion? We'll talk about it.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Can I weigh in on
Okay.
that?
Huh?
Can I weigh in on that?
We're gonna, yeah. We are open for discussion. So, what was your,
I wanted to explain what she said again.
Okay, we went over they both get a lump sum, we know that.
Yes, I got
So
it.
what we're gonna do, instead of giving them that lump sum, just roll it into their pay. So
In the hourly rate. Oh, okay,
it'll.
okay.
Yeah,
So what we did is we divided the hours worked into the
Hours.
dollars paid and
Yeah.
just spread it out over the year.
I missed that second part. Thank you.
go ahead.
I can, okay. I'm gonna read what I have to say because I don't talk well in front of a lot of people. Sorry. So I've been a treasurer for the village for 4 years now. And I took the job when Scott Yost asked me if I would cover the position for a yearly lump sum. I was glad to do it, but I do wish I'd asked more about the expected hours for the job in comparison with the amount of pay before I agreed to the position. Consistently for the last 4 years, I've worked an average of 170 hours per year on their treasury-related tasks. This is in addition to and separate from my accountant task and commensurate pay. I'm happy to do the job, but feel the pay is not reflective of the hours I spend, my skill and experience level, or the market rate for treasurer. If you look up the market rate, the low end is 37 and the high end is 72. Breaking down my yearly salary of $2,500 among the approximate 170 hours I spend on treasury work, it equates to $14.70 an hour, or less than half of the hourly rate for my accountant position, which isn't equal to the treasury position in terms of importance to the village. I've not had a raise in the 4 years as treasurer, and neither have I had a monetary raise as accountant. I would like to respectfully request a raise in compensation for the treasurer position that would make my hourly rate for treasurer more reflective of the time I spend, my skill level, and the going market rate. My solution that I would like to see, if the village wanted to combine the two jobs into one, therefore only paying weekly rather than a one-time payment during the tax season, I would be happy to have an increase in my hours to 40 hours a week, as I am only paid 36 hours a week for my accountant position. Adding to what I receive now on a weekly pay, I would only receive $38 on my paycheck, and that's not reflective at all of the amount of time and work I put into the treasury's work. In this way, if I just raised to 40 hours, the village would not have to see much of a difference in my weekly pay and not feel much of a financial hiccup.
We did give you a raise.
When
When you were working here, we did approve raises for you, Angie.
We've done raises in
Yes.
hours, not in pay.
Okay, not
We
pay.
increased
Raises
hours.
not- Okay, but I do remember us approving raises.
But-
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I
Did
said,
we not?
in the accountant, I said a
Yeah.
monetary raise, I've been given over the 4 years, I've been given 11 hours raise to 36 hours.
As your direct supervisor, have we had a conversation about anything that you just read?
When you
Other
asked,
than the part about
That's
rolling
the
your
only-
pay in? Has any of this been discussed with me?
No.
Why am I finding out about this at a public meeting? That is,
Aaron, that is not appropriate.
that's not the way to handle pay
No,
raises.
It's
that's
not,
not
but-
either.
During the current situation, maybe she wanted to come here, and I certainly don't want her attacked for coming here. Thank you. Go ahead.
My recommendation is she goes finance. Have finance bring a proposal to us with a date to start and stuff. That way they can work it out and check the books and they can validate and give them the numbers she's looking at and talking
So
about.
do you want to do a recommendation that
Yeah.
No,
one does
I want
change
to
and
do a
then the
recommendation
other
that
one
she take it to the
doesn't?
finance committee.
And I
Right,
would,
but there's already a motion on the floor,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
right?
So I have to change the
So
motion.
I need her to change her motion
I changed the
to
motion
single out
that Valerie,
just,
yes,
not Valerie,
both,
just, I mean, if you want to make the change,
okay.
then go ahead and make the change here.
For
And
Angie.
make that
Yeah.
your motion, but
Okay.
just not there, and then we'll take care of that motion.
Okay, if she changes that,
Okay.
I'd support that.
All right, I'm changing it that we recommend for Angie's
Yeah.
to be rolled over.
Okay.
You know, into her pay.
Sure.
And then Valerie meet with finance
Okay,
to discuss her.
And I would say.
I-
And going back to finance too, do a date, the same date as we would have Angie's. Go
Yeah.
back to that.
Okay, guys.
okay, so now that's the motion.
Yes.
And now that motion's on the floor.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
sorry, I was just so excited. I would say actually instead of finance to start in personnel, because I think that combining positions would be a personnel discussion before it would be a finance one. If currently the roles are structured that 2 different people could theoretically fill the treasurer and accountant position, I think that would need to be discussed first.
I also have a legal question on this now, because according to contracts, all personnel fall under Aaron, so it would be a discussion for Aaron. But as far as the treasurer portion of that goes, I believe council still has jurisdiction over the treasurer, statutorily.
Well, that's
So
By,
that's,
by ordinance, you hired her. not-
so I think that we will make that decision, so that portion definitely should go to personnel. But, the portion where she's the accountant is not anything that we can touch as far as I know. Okay, so,
Yeah, well,
I mean, unless like the treasurer, it was the treasurer position that absorbed all of the accountant
that's what I'm
duties,
saying.
right?
So
Rather than
we
vice
we
versa.
have the in on some of it, but not all of it, just so we know that going in.
you don't have another finance meeting until next month, right?
No, but it can schedule one.
But
Why don't we get together after?
Doesn't sound like she's really happy about the change, so putting it up probably isn't gonna hurt her feelings too much if we have to put it up to the next one. If that's okay with everybody.
I was just bringing it up and just asked to be considered. So I would be happy, whenever you wanted to meet, I would be happy.
Okay.
And can
Oh,
you
Bobby.
clarify just for my own edification? So the treasurer part of the duties, those come around tax season?
In actuality, I work on the taxes all year long. I start in May and I do the pilots. I also have May and June in which I work with the accounting and we set up the tax rolls. I roll the utility billing that is delinquent into the tax roll. There is a lot to set up. At the end of June, I print off all of the taxes. I stuff them in envelopes, I stamp them, and I get them mailed out. And then for 3 months, I collect taxes every month. I do a reconciliation on them. And as soon as that is done on September 14th, I send in all delinquents to the county treasurer, but the personal property, I continue to collect on until usually about March. It slows down. I have 1 month in which all I do is the treasurer work at the village, which is signing checks and that. And I do the property tax reconciliation, of course, and then it starts all over again in May. So actually, I work on taxes all year long.
Which makes sense.
Thank you. So now we're talking about the FOIA, or rolling in the FOIA officer pay into the
Angie's.
clerk. When, I mean, how is that gonna work from like how those roles were structured? Because the FOIA officer was like something we stated last fall.
That
and
Angie would be the FOIA officer.
That the clerk would be?
Yes,
Yes,
that's what we said.
we voted on
Yeah,
that.
we voted on it.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, as like in addition to her clerk duties with like a separate pay. So
She just got that lump sum once a year.
do we have to state in words that the clerk position will include FOIA
I
responsibilities?
think that was that.
I don't remember
Or
the
did it-
exact
was it-
wording in that. It did physically name me as the FOIA officer.
But
That
my
I would
intent
hold that
would be to rewrite the job description and have it written in the job description if that's part of that job. If that,
Yeah,
I
but I
think
think, I agree.
or
I
do you
think
wanna
that
do it by
that
council
step-
also?
I think that step should come before, like, we should see a job description before we merge the pay personally.
That's easy enough.
That's fine.
Yeah, cause you can always do the pay retro if we'd agree with it and want it.
Well, she's getting the same.
But you're getting
thing
paid
now,
anyway.
it's just
Yeah.
coming in from
Right.
different.
Yeah. She just gets that as a lump sum.
Well, the only thing we would have to figure out is
So
what
the
that,
motion on the floor is that Angie is going to have her pay merged, and the second is that she's going to have her pay merged. And we've had a discussion and we need to vote on that, and it sounds like, I think I know which way the vote's gonna go, but can we have a roll call vote on that issue there?
Certainly. And this is to roll the FOIA officer pay into the hourly rate.
Yes.
All right, Dunham,
No,
Larson.
No.
Miller.
No.
Needham,
Yes,
White,
yes.
Bishop is absent, Wales.
No.
Motion fails.
cause we can get a job description.
Yeah.
Well, that's
But-
No,
Order of origin, it should come first.
yeah.
And then just to be clear, when we figure that out, then we'll work back retroactively to figure out what that date should have been based on what her last payment was. Just,
Yeah.
there's gonna be some retro figure in there for 1
Yeah.
year, if that's what we end up doing. Does that make sense what I said?
Because it wouldn't matter.
Because she gets the lump sum payment
Right.
and there's gonna be a
And no matter
gap.
what point it is, it's still gonna be the same amount for that year.
As long as we
Yeah.
date it.
As long as
the
we
same,
date it
I
at the
guess.
right time.
It's always
Yes,
gonna be
yes,
posted,
that's
so
right.
whatever
Yeah.
that
True.
was originally.
Like, we won't come in and say like today,
Starting
and
now.
then a year,
Yeah.
like we'll stay on the same schedule.
Okay, so can we have a motion to create new job description?
I will make that
And
motion.
take
Support.
it to someone. I'm not making a motion, but to say what you're saying.
We got a motion and a support.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Roll call, remember.
Just to clarify, job descriptions for the clerk and the treasurer slash accountant and FOIA officer, those four.
It should be separate and it should be together,
Don't,
and we should have the options of both.
do you want a job, oh, so I see, I get what you're saying.
I just set them in the
Like,
wrong order.
that actually clarified my question, actually.
I'm sorry, may I get clarification on the motion, please? We're rewriting job descriptions for clerk and treasurer.
The motion is for separate job descriptions for both of you, and also combined job descriptions for both of you, and the pays that coincide for both of you on both of those.
So you want 4 job descriptions, just so I'm clear, you want 4 job descriptions written?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I
So,
guess now
like,
I'm lost.
2 separate jobs, 2
6,
separate
you're right,
jobs.
6.
Okay.
So we're gonna, he's saying we need 1 written as the treasurer, 1 written as the accountant,
I understand that.
1 written as the treasurer and accountant, so there's 3,
And then
and then 3
Well,
written
because
as
we
the
don't
Angie
have
Stroud.
base ones to start with.
So I would have to write 6 job descriptions.
We don't already
maybe.
have basic job descriptions for those other things, accountant and stuff like that, and then we
Yes.
just.
Yeah, but just pull them out for a visual so we know what the differences
Okay,
are.
all right,
And
that's
then
what
when it's
confused me.
combined,
Why
what it
we're
looks
writing
like.
all new ones.
We always have to see the 2
Just
originals before
combine.
we see what's
So we
combined.
will be able to
See
see
the
what
combined,
it is, what the pay scale is for each, and then we can go.
but I was thinking they're talking new job description and why we need new.
No, I think we just.
No, I got it.
We just do the
Let's
personnel.
see,
review.
my
Yeah,
questions.
no, we're good with that. We don't, no, it's not that. It's just copy and paste.
Larson,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Needham,
Yes,
Yes.
Bishop is absent, Dunham,
Yes.
Wales,
Yes.
motion carries.
That's all I have.
that's enough.
Other committees, parks and rec.
I was not there for the meeting, so,
Oh, there's 2.
oh, there were 2, hang on.
You were there for
Oh,
that
was
one.
that? That was- Okay, that's the one we met at the park, right?
Yes.
Okay, so on July 15th, we met at the park with Gosling, right? To discuss possible new park. And also, Mike was there, was it Mike Winter? Yeah, from the township. And we discussed building a new park and all that stuff and getting prices or what it would take, grants, all that. That was it for that meeting. On to the second one.
On the 20th, we met again and talked some more with the folks at Goslin. And we're looking for renderings of the park to figure out what we have to work with as far as area and shape. And there will be a informational meeting, much like the community meeting we're going to hold this Friday for housing. We're gonna do the same thing at some point for the park, but we're gonna start off by sending a questionnaire to the schools to get the input from the kids and from the parents. And see what features they would like, so that when we come to design a new park, we know what elements we're looking for to put in. No action at this time, we're just slowly building a database, but we did have to work on the rendering right away so that we could get the opportunity to go in for a DNR grant, which would help pay for quite a bit of structure in that area.
Do they have financing to do a rendering
We did sign a contract for that based on the Parks and Rec money. But we had discussed, and I think we agreed that we're gonna go out on that and because it's such a big project, it's probably worth seeing what prices are and what the options are.
Now, will, Franklin Civic, will they do that same grant search for us, like Situate, does
Well,
that same grant search, or should they take
Danielle
them?
already found a grant,
Oh,
a big grant, that isn't even, the application's not even out yet.
Oh,
That's
okay,
how
yeah,
quick she is.
gotcha.
It's the one we talked
Yep,
about, yes.
That big grant, that's even a bigger grant.
Yes.
And on the park, DPW is going to start hauling bark over. It's in desperate need of bark, so we're gonna get the bark filled in for the base. It's gonna be there, it's gonna be a couple of year project at least anyways.
Yeah, it's nothing that can happen overnight, but we have now figured out where the lines are between the village and the township. We have things coming, like we know we're getting the wheelchair swing. But we want to, instead of putting something up, and taking it down, we'll put the mulch down, the bark today or this week, so that it's safer and softer in there, but it's gotta come out. We know we need to do something with the park. Right now, to remediate what needs to be done at the park is going to take the budget of the village to do it. Those old wooden structures, between COVID and everything else, not being able to get in there and do anything, it's probably one of the last wooden playscapes in the state of Michigan right now.
And I heard that there were talks of some type of preservation of certain items and
Yes.
things that
We
could
talked
possibly
about-
be incorporated.
We talked about the slats for people that were in the original project 30 years ago, turning that into the new fence. Because the DDA had wished that we would do the black fence like we have at Railroad Square. I'm like, well, if you look at everything we have around here, you have enough to make the fence, keep the names. And Gosling had brought up, what can we save from the old park and utilize as part of the structure there? So, I mean, it's gonna be a long thing. We're gonna be looking for community involvement again, and it's gonna take time, but it's
And
gonna
that would
happen,
be
it's
really
gotta
cool, 'cause
happen.
You don't want it to replace the past, you just want it to be
Yeah.
safer and better.
Yes,
And so far, generally, from the feedback we've gotten from the people that were around the time that helped build it, that people would not be upset about it as long as we're putting something down. What would bother people is if we tore it down and didn't have a park.
right, and that
That is
doesn't
not our
make any
goal at
sense.
all.
And then the rest of the discussions were, and this actually rolls into the public works meeting, is for some strange reason, we don't have any parks designated as actual parks. So that needed to be taken care of as well, because now we have three areas that we call parks and that the community is
So what
said
do we
these
have
are
to do
parks.
again, Dustin?
Brian Brown's in the process of writing that up
Yeah.
for us.
Oh, okay.
And then once we make them legal parks, then no council can sell them ever without a vote of the public.
Oh, cool.
Vote of the public or vote of the council?
Vote of the public.
Yeah.
So it really secures
Locks
that.
them down pretty good.
Is it gonna be
Unless
volunteer
it's something like the
rebuilding and
community
stuff like it was
decides is
before?
something better. but-
Well, depending on how the grant structures work, I mean, if we get the DNR grant and the other grant that hasn't come out yet,
You won't have.
Just based on the materials, I don't know that's even possible. I
Yeah.
think it was.
but that doesn't mean there
Well, if I
aren't,
can do a poll.
I mean, there's things like
anything.
and we have more than one park. I mean, sure, Mill Pond is going to need an update as well.
Mhm.
And we're always looking for people to help out with stuff, cleanup days, painting. We had talked about changing the gas or the charcoal grills over to a coin operated timed electric grill.
Mhm.
So you just come in and drop $1 and you get cook time, and then you don't have that ash receptacle that weighs 9,000 pounds that people keep throwing garbage in. You know, just to make it a little more modern, a little more convenient, and a little less work intensive to keep using
Makes
for the
sense,
public.
yeah.
And the bathrooms? You wanna touch those or you want me?
You can,
So DNW Mechanical has come and repaired the 2 pipes that were broken.
In
They're still in the
Chocolate
Chocolate Park bathroom, sorry, I should introduce the topic first. They repaired those pipes, they do have some urinal repair they have to do and a couple other things, but they're getting, I guess probably by next spring, to be safe, they would be ready to be open.
so we're working on the infrastructure there as well. There's also in building the new park and looking at what we got. Everything we tear up gives us the opportunity to get more lines down because we have 8 more cameras that we could add to the DVR
Cool.
system over there. And as soon as DW is out of that back room, I think we found the solution to beam the pictures back directly to the Department of Public Safety So once they're out of the
Oh,
way,
that's
we can
cool.
get in there, I'll hook everything up and see if the feed works.
Oh, that would be cool.
Not that it's, the system that's there is recording, but in order to monitor it, you have to go there, hook the monitor up to it, dial back to when you think the day was. Now we'll just be able to control everything from the computer as long as what we think is right works. Excuse me. And barring any questions, that is all I have for that report.
Good.
Was that Public Works too, or you still have more Public Works?
I have Public Works, that was the second
Go ahead.
park meeting that he was not at. Excuse me.
Public Works, whenever you can breathe.
Yeah, that's a good thing to breathe.
The breathing wasn't the problem, it was stuck in my throat. Excuse me. Public Works met on the 25th. All the usual culprits in attendance. We discussed well number 6 project, and we recommend and move to the council that we authorize construction and installation of well number 6, which has been a long ongoing project to figure out where it's going and if it's feasible and everything else. And we've come to that time to make the motion.
So where's it gonna go?
Motion, can we have a second?
Second.
Second, now we're gonna discuss.
Where's it gonna go?
Right by the water tower.
Oh, right by the water tower?
Yep.
Okay.
Should be in the library.
Where's this going? Right by the water tower. In that big open area.
The pits.
Right in the middle of demolition derby.
No more discussion?
I think we've discussed this to death before.
Yes.
Would you? Thank you.
Yes, certainly.
I'll just
Miller?
wait and see where it goes.
Yes.
Needham,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Bishop is absent, Dunham,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Wales.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Subject number 2 on the agenda was more discussion about Chalker Park and potential grants for park. We just discussed all the grant opportunities that we're looking at. We have no recommendation to the council at this time, other than what we're already working on.
And what day is that housing development?
Friday.
Thursday?
It's
Friday.
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 The 12th?
At
What
4
time?
o'clock.
4 o'clock.
But
All
I'll
right.
be reporting on that and mentioning it again in just a moment when I get to the house.
I know. So,
Third item on the agenda was the cannabis licensing ordinance. You'll find that under new business. If you would like to take that vote now and just scratch that from later in the council agenda, we would move to amend as shown. I'll make that motion. That's ordinance 2022-014.
would anyone like to second that motion so we can discuss?
Second.
Motion and second on the floor, open for discussion.
Has this been by an attorney?
Yes.
Thank you. Because it's a lot of legal.
This was actually done by, Doug Maines, who's done all our cannabis stuff for us.
And what is going on?
Basically, this allows us to follow what the state is allowing as far as the selling of an entire business. If you have a business and you want to sell that business, our ordinance did not allow that, but state law does. So this gets us in line with the state law.
As far as cannabis business.
Correct. This would be just like, if I want to sell McDonald's, I can. Now, if I want to sell my cannabis licensed business, I can do that.
We're talking about McDonald's, I'm already Jewish or Mocha, they won't have it anymore.
And just to clarify, our ordinance already says that we mirror the state. And this would actually make it mirror the state correctly because we don't have
Correct,
this portion.
because that portion of the ordinance actually says you can't do it.
So
Yeah.
we are just fixing it so
Fixing
that our
that.
ordinance is written correctly.
Correct.
So we're not changing the terms of our ordinance, really.
Right, we just
Because
had
it
an
already
exception
says.
in our ed ordinance that didn't allow the part where we said it's allowed.
Which was against state law.
Which is now.
It's not against the law,
No,
it was just more restrictive than what the law is.
I guess you can do that.
What does the certificate of registration refer to specifically here? Is that the
Cannabis
business,
license.
that's the cannabis license?
Yes.
Okay, so we've discussed this in Public Works, so it's old news to you guys, but after thinking about it since Public Works, I still feel that, like my interpretation, like when I read this, it says to me that not only can someone sell their business, like the brand name and the contents of their business, but basically the license, which I know our list isn't very long, but either way, I don't think that someone should be able to buy their spot in the list for licenses when other people are waiting, or when people might potentially be waiting, even if the list wasn't completely there. Like, I think that they should then, they can buy the business, but they don't have dibs on
I
the
believe our
license.
ordinance already says that you can transfer it.
We thought the same thing, but it's not there.
Really?
It was proposed, but it was never given to the council. You and I in Faith, and
I
we
really-
all thought the same
I
thing.
thought that was in there.
It's not
We're
there.
really sure that didn't get dropped somewhere, huh? In
Sounds
that
correct.
translation?
Because Doug Maines actually showed me the ordinance that he proposed, that he had given
Yeah, I
us,
thought that.
but we never, it never came here.
Really?
Either that or it just never made it in the ordinance. I
It's
don't know.
not.
You gotta go through.
That's what I'm wondering, because I know we did, we crafted and everything. I
Cannabis.
thought it traveled with that in the.
So I don't know if it just got dropped or, I don't know.
It's a store that sells cannabis, you know, so.
But I think with liquor licenses, those licenses are kind of like attached to the
No, you
building
can-
more so.
You can sell a liquor license.
Yeah, you can,
And not have the building.
Well, in this case, it would be attached to a building.
Yeah.
I missed part of your conversation, I think, sorry.
No, I said it's
Yeah,
kind of
it
like
is
a liquor
going on.
license.
It is still attached to a building. You would have to buy the building and the license
Yeah.
both. But we still have the ability to check and make sure you can legally have that license. So it's not like you just buy it and you automatically get it. We still go through our checks to make sure you're in compliance.
Well, right,
state.
but
And so does
if you are, right, then you get it and you still didn't have to, be on the waiting list.
Correct.
So I
What I
have
think maybe
hesitations
you're
about
not
that.
getting though is that the state allows them to do this. So we're the only ones in the whole configuration. You can transfer your property, you can sell your business. The state will let you transfer your license to a new ownership. We won't. So we're the only ones blocking anybody from selling a family business and letting somebody else try.
So if the state,
The state already lets it happen. And they don't even charge you if you're just like changing your name or adding a wife or something. But if you're changing it to a new business, they do because you're going through the whole thing. Did you have something to weigh in?
Yes, I apologize. My name is Kevin Essel. I'm one of the representatives from Stony Berry Cannabis.
Okay.
And if
Thank
we
you for coming.
chose- Thank you so much. I apologize for just teeing in. If we were to decide to put our business up for sale and we had a potential customer come in.
Sir, let me ask you to speak up, because they're gonna try to pick that up over there and then.
There's a microphone behind you, picking us up.
If we were going to decide to put our business up for sale and we were going to look at a potential customer that came in that had the finances and the education opportunity to build it or to continue building it, then wouldn't you think that it would be appropriate, Lisa, to follow the state recommendations as all the other communities do within the state, to give them the opportunity to purchase our business as long as they get vetted through the municipality so that they can legally own it. So there's nothing in the background that'll pop up saying, hey, you know what, these guys are bad guys, we don't want them in our house. So you say no. So I would think that for me, that would be appropriate. Now, if I went to go sell my business and put it on the market to put it up for sale as a potential selling agent, and I find a buyer that says, hey, I have the money to do it, and they have a clean record, and they have the opportunity to buy it, and it gets axed by the municipality because they're saying, no, you have to get back in line, then I lost my business, and the seller is no inclined to buy the license, then wouldn't that make the municipality legally responsible for loss of business?
I don't think it would make us responsible for loss of business. I think that we might be liable if other people were on a waiting list and, they got someone
if it-
else's application
What if
was
it was
pushed
one of
through.
those people that's on the waiting
But,
list?
I'm going to see back over here that if this is the way that the state does it, and that they allow the transfer of a license, even though I'm sure they have a much longer waiting list than ours, then that's fine.
And for your peace of mind, I did ask Mr. Maines that specific questions. If we have a waiting list and we have this, is that creating a problem for us? And he said no.
Well, yeah, I mean, like
But-
right now,
right.
but just.
No, I just wanted you to know, I was
Also,
as thorough as I could be.
just one more thing to weigh in also. On D, we're considering changing that micro business to allow it to bring in some other things and to increase its plants. So the state has recognized that the micro business is probably not the best model, and they've modified it for us. So right now, if somebody has been struggling and they would like to maybe have another investor come in and they need that investor to buy the business, this would be the perfect time for us to also let them do that. We only have 3 licenses, and I would really like to see those 3 licenses flourish. And be a new, cool, neat niche in the market, and not struggle.
Can I be the old blonde lady and
I would
ask a
love
dumb
it.
question?
Yes,
Do we have that kind of a waiting list?
I do believe we have a couple people waiting for not a micro business, but do we have people waiting for micro businesses too?
No.
Or no,
No,
just,
none for micro.
just a regular retail store.
Okay, so it's not like we're putting 20 people out of business or something.
And-
Okay,
and
I
no.
was just curious, I hadn't heard anybody.
And this wouldn't affect those that are waiting for those businesses, because this is
Thank
just
you.
But this is
allowing
for,
any license to do
This
this.
is for all of
So
them,
it would
right?
affect any license.
You are correct.
So if there was somebody waiting and somebody else decided that had a retail license, this would affect them.
One, and
But it doesn't have anything to do with the micro business that I was talking about in my D.
But to be completely fair, so you have all the info, there is a waiting list for, I want to say dispensary, but I know it's not right.
Provisioning center.
Provisioning center,
Provisioning, okay.
there is a waiting list for that. And there is a provisioning center that is attempting to be sold. So there is a specific situation out there right now where this will quickly be coming to focus. Just so you have all the info.
Thank you.
Come,
Hi, thank you so much. I'd like to kind of circle back to the opportunity to grow from a 150 plant to a 300 plant micro grow A license. You know, the state says that that's probably going to be something that would be an option or be optional for us as a business to continue to grow, or even to add another investor, or even just a potential save our money and put a hybrid grow and see if we can't get it to pass through the council, so we have a green energy kind of grow, polycarbonate, recycled water, things like that, so we can look at EPA and kind of lead the charge. We still see that the micro grow license in the business itself does have quite a potential for profitability. It is there. We do have quite a bit of clientele that look at our business, and we just need to do better marketing, things like that. But we want to look at that opportunity as a potential 300 per way license. Want to see where the council is on that, and to see when they may look at that more thoroughly to put that in. So we do have that option. We don't know if we will or not.
well, that is what we're doing next on D, so that is already up for us, that micro business approval, so, thank you again.
So
It's
hang on.
next time, but it's not actually next.
But it's next on D, yes.
so did we just take this from the state then?
What?
The new language?
On
Updated?
the transfer one, well, we took it from the state and the attorney incorporated it with our current ordinance in the state law.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more discussion? Can we have a roll call, please, Ange?
Sir, roll call for the adoption of ordinance 2022-014. Needham,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Bishop is absent, Dunham,
Yes.
Larson,
No.
Miller,
I have to abstain.
Wales.
I'm abstaining as well.
Motion fails.
Well, if I had voted no, that would have been real.
Motion doesn't fail, she said?
Yeah, we don't have four.
We don't have four. Carly and I have to abstain.
Yeah, because it affects your pay, doesn't it?
Well, not really, but kind of,
No.
yeah, we could.
Yeah.
Anything else from? What were we on? Public-
That is it for Public Works.
Well, what'll happen now? Is this gonna come up again in another meeting, or are we done with this, or?
Well, if I remember right, Madam Clerk, because it failed, it can't be brought back up.
It can be reconsidered, but it has to be reconsidered at the very next.
At the very next meeting by somebody who
Who voted on
voted
the
against it.
dissenting side, yes.
And I would check with an attorney on that too, because unless it directly affects your pay, directly, you don't know.
Can you call?
It
Or
had, I
can
have,
you- and what did he say?
I talked to Mr. Brian Graham and he said yes. that
Yes, what?
They needed to stay on.
Oh.
In any industry, anything
Anything
to
that
do
affects
with
their,
the
could
industry.
affect their job.
Yeah. It would affect our job.
Okay, so now what happens if we're gonna go against the state?
We're not
We
going
got
against them,
somebody-
Well,
we
we're
can
not
be more
agreeing with
restrictive, we're
Yeah.
just not
Equal to,
correct.
Go ahead.
Jessica Swift. I am a resident of Kalkaska County, and I actually work for 42 Degrees Processing as a human resource manager there. How would this affect their pay if neither works in a grow facility or a provisioning center?
That would be my question as well.
I'm sorry,
That
what?
would be my question as well.
Okay,
I was told council told me to abstain,
Yeah.
so that is why I abstained.
okay.
We work in the industry. so.
Yeah,
That is a more, let me ask, that's a more specific question.
yeah,
I
that way
think we should
that's
clarify.
on the agenda next
That's
month.
more
so we can-
specific than the conversation we had. I know he definitely said on the, no,
This
on the
says,
the sale one was the specific one that we talked about.
this is the licensed marijuana facilities ordinance.
Correct,
So
because you
what
could still
falls
sell
under
your
this?
facility.
Yeah, facility would be everything.
okay.
The micro A one would, I could see the argument on that one, but
What if we don't own our facility? Because we don't. We rent it. Still,
I'm still questioning the whole idea
Yeah.
of how would it be them selling their license making her pay different? How would her pay go up by them
Yeah.
transferring a license unless it was a different company?
Unless
And
they
that
bought
would-
one.
And that would be up to the new company to change a pay. I don't understand I don't follow the logic on it, I guess.
I need that
Should we
covered
just
up.
call the attorney and get it?
I would.
I mean, I can,
Get
I mean,
it on.
that's what I did, but
No, but I mean,
No.
like, just get it on
More
record,
specified.
more specified questions.
you want me to get something in writing maybe, explaining?
Good idea.
Make sure you ask the question.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking
Yeah.
into these two.
It's
what would
very
meet their-
specifically, I mean,
curious.
it's not my company, I don't,
Yeah.
I mean, the transfer of things doesn't have anything to do with the level I'm at.
Okay.
And I don't think it has anything to do with the level that you are. And I certainly am not gonna get a raise going back to work tomorrow if I
Yeah.
So,
help
Yeah.
a micro business that needs help.
Yeah.
I think that's
Can
ridiculous.
you write that in an email for me, since you have that thought in your head?
He'd be glad to.
Because I think that would be my best way of explaining it fully.
Then,
So then-
another question, Angie, can Bobby, who was absent, bring it up?
No.
No?
No, one of those two have to.
No,
No,
Bob.
That'd be Bob. Somebody who
I
voted
thought they said somebody had voted no.
Against.
Right.
But they
Yeah,
didn't.
Bob
They didn't
voted
vote.
Oh, they didn't vote.
Yeah, we couldn't vote. We were evacuated.
So since we're still in the same meeting, I think we probably need to solve this right now and not wait because we can't. So how are we gonna do that? Madam Clerk, once we've already
Well, if we
voted on
redo
something
this
and then
and
we
you guys
decide
vote
that
no,
that wasn't
we'll
legal,
do
what do
it.
we do?
Right?
Can we revote?
Angie?
We would need to.
How you doing there, Bob?
We would have,
Well, yes.
a person who voted against the motion,
Mhm.
or against the vote, would have to make the motion to reconsider. Basically, a motion to reconsider erases the vote that just took place. And then another motion would have to go and, get
And
passed and
okay,
voted on
okay.
to
Within the same meeting as well.
Same
As in-
meeting or very
very
next.
next, yes, no later than the very next meeting.
And in the same meeting, when we're done with that item, can we readdress that item?
If the person that voted no
If-
brings it up, yes.
Correct.
Changes
If
the
we
So if
have-
Bob
if we
said,
have a-
can we talk about that again,
If
then we
yes.
could readdress the
If
motion.
if a vote is passed to reconsider the issue.
So it actually becomes two votes.
Correct.
The first vote is the motion to reconsider, and the
Correct.
second would be the actual
Yeah, actual
original.
Of
motion.
voting of the ordinance, of adopting the ordinance.
You can't wait for a month, huh?
Well, I think it's gonna affect all of these motions if he said
Oh, I see what you're
it
saying.
affects all of the jobs.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that it was specifically only one of these motions and not both of them before I said no. So that also affects how I feel about it.
But this is the specific motion. The other one, your question actually raises a question for me, so that's a valid. But the question with the attorney was specifically on C. I made
Does he
it,
know what we work for or
Yeah.
anything at all?
he said it didn't matter. He said anybody employed in the industry.
So anybody that works for
And but I,
DTE Energy can't vote on the public hearing for DTE Energy?
according to him,
Okay, well, I
I
don't
mean,
think that's true either. I would like a second opinion. And if that second opinion comes back that that was bad advice, then I think we're gonna have to contact somebody to find out how to address this.
Can we do it at a special meeting as long as it's before the very next one?
No, I think that would become the next
that
meeting.
would become the next meeting.
Yeah, so that's what I meant.
All it
So-
says is the next full board meeting. It doesn't say regularly scheduled or special or.
So would somebody like to make a motion that we get a second opinion and come back to this at a special
I'll make
meeting?
that motion. Am I allowed to make that motion to get a second opinion?
I
think
don't
so.
know why you wouldn't be able to make that motion.
Okay.
I'll support it.
Motion and support. All those in favor of getting a second opinion, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Thank you. We'll get a second opinion.
Yeah, we're trying.
Moving on to D, consider adoption of ordinance 2022-015. Yes, sir.
We just
Sorry, I
skipped
know
a
I
whole
did. I
bunch
know
of
I did. I know I did. As soon as I did it, I knew I didn't. You even reminded me 5 minutes ago. That's okay. It happens every single time it's good. Go ahead.
And that was my bad, but we skipped ahead, but just trying to be expedient and get the meeting moving. So that concludes Public Works at this time, unless someone has more questions. Moving on to Housing and Blight, we met on the 4th, all the usual suspects in attendance. Excuse me, we discussed hookup fee incentives and blight ordinance as presented by Housing North. Trying to make it more beneficial for developers and to come in here and help us fix our housing problem. The blight ordinances, of course, we're working on because we have some buildings that need to be improved, removed from the registry, freeing up property. Information is forthcoming. We have no recommendation at this time.
Is the housing committee available to meet sometime this week? I have the contact now with the guy at Warner who deals with tax incentives and hookup fees and.
And not this week. This week's really crazy.
Yeah, this week's.
But next week.
Maybe next week then, I just didn't know if you wanted to have it done before Friday, but it probably doesn't, normally doesn't. Okay.
Because that's information gathering.
Let's get a appointment or a date set up then and set up a phone conference with him.
Let me know your availability and we'll go from there. We also went over the housing survey results again. Not a lot of change other than the usual riffraff adding things that had nothing to do with housing in it. Due to things that have been going on in the village. It's an election year and everybody's getting a little wonky. It's normal. So we have no further recommendation on that either. We're just going to continue to gather information. The next opportunity to gather information and give information will be this Friday, the 12th of August at 4 p.m. from 4 to 6 at Railroad Square Pavilion. And we hope to see the public and officials and anybody who wants to talk about the housing crisis at that facility to learn and share ideas. And directly thereafter at 6:30, we will be setting up for the first drive-in movie of the year, where we will show Xanadu in honor of Olivia Newton-John passage.
Yes.
And that is all the reports I have.
Can't keep all these police reports, keep going.
Should just say police report, is that me?
Moving on to police report.
So all the policies, as you know, we've been working on updating the policies. We now have 30 policies. All the officers have read them and signed them. I have received some correspondence with some of the board members related to an officer situation. We have handled that to the extent that the attorneys tell us we can. Talked to 3 different attorneys, got the same opinion from all of them, so we did everything that we could do. But I'm gonna leave that vague like that. Any questions on the police side?
Yeah, what did you do with the truck signs? You get them up yet?
Nope, they're ordered.
I hope so, because
Lloyd's got truck signs and Jake brake signs ordered. I wanna have that up on Norway before we open that, hopefully.
semi come down there 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I heard that.
And then there was another one with a car carrier that's parked next door to me. He was out there for 45 minutes at 9 o'clock at night. And then there was another one that turned and went up, like, I don't know if it was to Carquest or what, they turned up on that street up there. So that's 3 within 2 weeks.
So as soon as we get those, Lloyd knows we need to get those up.
Well, the hospital is doing the same thing, waiting for signs, because they're gonna be doing some stuff, and apparently the sign companies, they probably use the same ones, they're going very fast.
You're taking a breath, you're talking.
No, I was just thinking about how signs are not going very fast. It was very loud crowds.
I think I showed everybody the pictures of the runway cracks. If anybody in the public wants to see those when we're done, let me know. I have them here on the tablet. Those are scheduled to be repaired here coming in September after the drag race. North Walnut Street, they're almost done with the first intersection. Rain delays have kind of stalled that a little bit, but it's still going as expected and they still are on schedule. Filter media, we met with the company that's going to replace the filter media at the iron removal plant. They should be starting that. I think they said the end of August. Material should be delivered shortly. It's about a semi and a half of material. That will be delivered and then they'll start the work there. They're gonna do one at a time, so they'll do one, make sure everything works for a couple weeks, all the numbers and residuals are good, and then they'll work on the second one. Sidewalk repair, we had to repair a sidewalk on 400 block of South Walnut Street. We had some trees removed. There was a large one that really interrupted the sidewalk. There were some pretty horrible cracks, and the sidewalk did this. Now the sidewalk is straight and there's no cracks. And have we talked about financial update next month?
Yes.
So we're gonna start doing quarterly, so that you can see where we're at, what we're doing. If there's questions, concerns, changes, we can direct them more that way. So we will make, the treasurer will be prepared for that next one,
More paper.
because that'll be our halfway point.
Anything else?
That's it for me, unless you have questions.
I'm on. Not much from me this month. Everything seems to be kind of leveling off and going quite well. Got a grant funding going on. The DDA is all over every grant I think that is possible. And at the last meeting, I think we have it coming, do we have that coming up from them on here?
I don't know how they keep up with them like they do.
About sending everything that way for development. Is that something we need to discuss here, or is that just something that's
It's
gonna
not
think
just
we
them,
probably
they
should,
work on the
just to be-
library and-
Not that we need to, but so people understand why the
So that's what I
DDA
was
may
gonna
be
just discuss. I
stepping out a
didn't
little
see
bit.
anything about it. I didn't know if it was coming or
Together.
it's just, yeah.
Same as the playground.
So in our DDA, sorry, that side conversation shouldn't take place, we're just catching up. At the DDA meeting, we decided that the DDA should be receiving inquiries from outside industry, job people, anybody looking to Kalkaska. So there's one central source, and usually things, if it's not, a billing question or something like that, they usually get diverted that way anyway to somebody's cell phone, and it kind of cuts things out. So we want one central place that everybody can just be diverted that way. So that is in the works. I'm not sure how that's going to be accomplished, but Gaynell seemed to be quite on it, so I'm sure she is. Just so everybody knows that if anybody has any questions, or a developer, or looking for a house, or any of those things that we could probably do, but we're not really the right people to do it, go to the DDA. And that's what they're gonna take on. So any kind of development, so as we learn through housing, it doesn't just matter if it's happening right in the downtown corridor. Really anything, if a business expands and they're looking for another place, if a factory moves to town, that downtown corridor is going to get busier and there's going to be more people. And that is the idea. So having a central source that isn't using up an office resource here, and since they end up doing the job anyway, there's gonna be a little switcheroo. So, as the pavilion comes this way, I think that maybe that kind of stuff is gonna go that way. And that's a better way to balance out the jobs, so it's not going all in one direction. So that's what's going on with that, and that's all I have, unless somebody has any questions about anything else going on in the world. We have no unfinished business under 8, moving on to new business. Discuss deletion of village and DPS Facebook pages.
So this specific question came up for the police department Facebook page, but I had Angie put both of them on here in case you wanted to discuss them. I really want to eliminate our department Facebook page. I just don't think it's necessary. It creates more, people expect answers, and they expect to go on there and ask questions and get answers, and it can't work that way. And I just think it's actually counterproductive for us to have it anymore. But Brian Graham recommended that it be a council decision.
Is there a way to keep the page but not let it be active and have like one thing on it so it directs it back to maybe the village's homepage or to that?
I don't know that. Is it even possible?
Well, I don't know how when you disassemble a Facebook page, I'm sure it doesn't go anywhere. It's probably still there. So if it was just easier to just take everybody off of it, deactivate everybody but one person in charge of it, that person shuts it down pretty much, just puts one post, pins that post and says, for more information about go to. Because if there was we need some place, because somebody on Facebook is gonna go there for an emergency.
So you can make it so
place to go.
People can't comment, is that what you mean? Is that?
Or post or anything, yeah, it's just like
You
that.
could have a page where nobody
It's
comments.
just
I didn't know that.
You can turn off.
I don't
comments.
think municipalities can though.
I have, on my private page, I have that ability, that's linked in.
No, I don't mean like Facebook won't let you,
Public.
I'm saying that I don't know if as a public entity that we can turn off them.
Right, that's what I'm saying, I don't know that it's actually possible to turn it off, just let it be stagnant with a link to
Are you speaking legally?
kalkaskavillage.com.
I'm speaking.
She's speaking legally, we don't think we can shut it off.
Well, I've been told both things. I've been
But
told by those that want to sell me something, no, we can't, and I've been told that those don't want to sell me, it doesn't matter, you gotta go ahead, if it's not there, it's not there.
if there's, if this is something that we're discussing, I mean, you can just make a post that's tagged to the top that says this page is no longer maintained or active.
Yeah.
For most recent information, go to this page.
I would be in favor of that.
But,
Yeah, I would say
mean,
not to expect
that's-
responses either.
right, yeah, that it's not maintained and no one's monitoring it.
Now, we do have it set on if you send us a private message, you get an automatic response. We don't monitor this 24/7, call 258-3350 or 911 for media assistance. So that they get a response, but the response is that we're not gonna respond.
Okay, that's.
Yeah,
that's
and I
fine.
think you can custom those responses, but I mean, I don't know, is this something we want to get rid of, right, the police department page? I know we're locked out of one, we made a new one, right, that happened recently.
Mm.
What has it been used for primarily in the past?
Honestly, we don't use it much anymore because it got to the point where it was certain people wanting to put out, look what we did this month and how, and that's not what I want it to be. We're not looking for attention. We're not looking for people to, I don't know.
It seems as
Recognition.
though it shouldn't go away, to me. It seems as though it should just be a stagnant page that if there is an emergency and people are following that page, you can just put something up for an emergency, but it doesn't necessarily need to be the next coolest whatever we did this week posted all the time. Because those are the posts that get all the comments.
Correct.
So if it was really, this is an emergency, I don't think we have to worry about the influx.
So since I'm calling for a second opinion on the cannabis question, I'll ask the same question to the same attorneys on Facebook.
Okay. And then
And whether or not it's
with that.
doable.
That's a good idea.
Well, I think if it's no longer active, right, like the states is no longer active, then probably good.
Correct. We can get rid of it, but
Yeah,
the
you
question
can
is, can we
delete them.
keep it and not take comments? But that's,
Well, you might get comments, but no one will look at it.
Yeah,
you
don't
know.
look at it.
Right, that's
And
just.
I think it should be posted that way. This is not, you're not getting an answer back. I mean, you know, your response is an automatic and
This is used for emergency
Yeah.
purposes only.
that's unrelated, well, sort of related. So you all, and I don't know if you all know that dispatch actually has an app now that they can text everybody within the Kalkaska County borders if there's an emergency. They can hit every cell phone in that, they can geo it, so they can do the village, they can do Kalkaska Township, they can do Boardman Township. Obviously, there's gonna be some gray areas on who's on the sides, but they have that ability now too. So you may get those on your cell phones periodically.
I would personally say like either we maintain or we don't, even for emergencies, like I would just move all that to the village Facebook.
And that's
personally.
probably something that we should be able to do when we update the website, I think, is to be able to communicate that way too.
why don't you
And
investigate
communicate
a
in
little
what
more?
way?
Through the website.
Through the website instead of through a
Instead of
Facebook page.
Oh, like with recent
Yeah. but that's-
posts and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the village Facebook as we're talking about that?
I mean, it'd be the same question. I mean, I don't know if you guys see it the same or different or how you feel,
Well,
so
I know
if
a
one
lot of
was on, I
people-
figured we should have talked about them both.
A lot of people do get their information on Facebook. So when there's meetings,
Of the current 7 people that are watching the meeting live right now, they got that link from Facebook.
My only concern is I know 2 people in my former place of work that the only thing they can do is push an app icon on their tablet, and that's all they know how to do. So I would hate to eliminate that for them.
Social media is a great thing.
And not-
Unfortunately,
Sometimes.
there's a bunch of people that probably shouldn't use social media that do, and you just have to deal with them.
Well, that was a great discussion.
Just so I'm clear, I'm asking about the DPS page, we're leaving the village one alone. Am I
That's what it
correct?
At this,
sounds like.
at this point, that's something we can always discuss later on if we see some things coming up that we don't like.
well, if you guys were funny with Grand Traverse 911,
You see,
Oh, yeah, it's okay.
that was kind of, isn't it? Discuss adoption of ordinance 2022-013, repealing chapter 151, signs of the village code of ordinances.
So section 151 is the police power ordinance that used to regulate signs. When we rewrote our new zoning ordinance, the sign ordinance was written into the zoning ordinance. So now we have a zoning ordinance and a police power sign ordinance. There's 2 different ordinances. The police power and the zoning don't even completely correspond with each other, which we're fixing that through planning. So but we need to get rid of 151, so we only have one place so people aren't looking at 2 different rules and they're both in effect.
Thank you for bringing that to us from the planning commission, sir. Can we have a motion
I'll make the motion.
with a second?
Support.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, and in the question phase, the ordinances, I thought you said or someone said that something didn't translate over, like about the flags.
There are
and
some
new
things
flags.
in 151 that are not in the sign ordinance, on the zoning ordinance currently. And that's what we're doing through planning, is I'm gonna give them a list of what's missing, and they'll determine, do they wanna keep it all, do they wanna keep part of it?
But if we get rid of the police power ordinance today, is that gonna leave a gap where then there's
It
No one
does, but
knows what to do
we're kind of
about
leaving
flags.
that gap anyway, because it wouldn't even be right to enforce it when one rule says you can and one rule says you can't. So we're really not going to enforce it until we have a black and white answer.
But does one say it's you can't and one says you can,
No.
or does one just not address it?
One says you can't and one doesn't even talk about it.
Right.
Which.
151
In
says you
exclusions, it doesn't include it in exclusions of the things that you can't have. So it is saying you can't have it by not excluding.
But with no,
So it's not regulated, that means you can have it.
right,
So it's not regulated. And the police power says you can't have it. So if we're not regulated and we say we can't have it, those are two different things.
can we vote on this on taking away all of the police power parts about the signs except for the flag signs?
if we were to have it rewritten right now, yes, we could probably do that. I will tell you, another part of the problem is like the flag sign specifically, that's always been something we didn't allow. Yet we did. So to go back and enforce it now, after they were told they could do it, even though the zoning ordinance said they couldn't do it,
A lot of stuff like that.
Well, people will probably be upset, but that sounds like an us problem.
it is an us problem. That is absolutely correct.
And so like we are trying to do with the other thing, not putting the horse and cart in the wrong order, we have to make up the new one. Get rid of this one first, make up the new one, and then we'll adopt them. Because right now we have two different things.
I guess in my mind, this way we're saying, we got a brand new zoning ordinance, we wrote this into it, and now we're gonna enforce it. And even though it's still going back and changing something we didn't allow, I think it's just, to me, do you agree? It's a smoother process into doing it the right way that we should have been doing it to start.
We're currently not enforcing it. It's currently not in the new ordinance that we just adopted, but it's in our old police power ordinance. So that's what we want to remove while we're remaking it.
What's the timeline on that?
It'll be ready for the next, remind me, Angie,
We'll have to
So does
hold
this
another
go-
public hearing, so that
and
the next
planning
meeting, they're
right
going to
first.
review and see what updates need to be made, but then they'll have to hold a public hearing.
so basically 2 months.
Couple of months.
Okay.
And according to what he said, the planning commission, there is no site plan or anything coming up with any special signs that we would have to consider during that time period. And any sign would still have to come to us. So, that planning commission.
The only two things, off the top of my head, the only two things I can think of are flag signs and political signs. They're not in the zoning ordinance.
Whoops.
But there is something in the zoning ordinance that says you can't have a sign in the road right away. So that's kind of handled most of the things we've needed to handle so far.
Inside side.
I don't think it's that, yes, it's a big oops, but I think when you have that big of a change of an ordinance to miss, if that's all we miss, I think we're doing good. So the fact that nothing else has come to our attention yet, I think we're probably in good shape. I hope.
That's all my questions.
Ready for roll call vote?
Please.
I'm done.
White,
Yes.
Bishop is absent, Dunham,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Needham,
Yes,
Wales.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Angie, we're gonna move on to D, and I'm not gonna recuse myself.
Should we
We
table this one? We can't table
We
it?
have to go back to a table discussion by the end of the meeting.
That's correct.
Something
This
could be
is fine.
tabled
What
till
is
the
it?
next meeting if you're wanting to table. You
We can table it
take
to the
from
next
table
meeting.
At the very next meeting.
the next meeting, I was gonna say, I've never heard they had it.
It has to be, it's unfinished business, but it can only carry over as unfinished business to the very next meeting.
Oh, okay.
And then it
Oh,
going
okay.
forward at that point, you have to
So it just goes
consider
on
it as new business.
Unfinished
again.
business.
Yes.
So let's table it.
I gotta think you're gonna be able to vote on this one,
I think so too, but
as the way you explained it.
I don't
How do you
know
want-
that.
Yep,
That has to be a motion though.
Yeah, well, we're gonna come back for a special meeting probably
is that what you wanna do?
for that other question. is
Oh,
what we said,
for both.
so, yeah,
Yes,
we'll
that's
just
right.
do them both.
Do we have to vote to table it?
Yes, you do.
Yes.
I'll make the motion to
I'll
table
second.
item D. Until the
Motion and
next meeting.
second to table, do we need a roll call for a table? All those in favor say yes.
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 Any opposed? Table. D.
So the, did you introduce me?
E.
E, we might want to table as well.
Actually, the fee schedule changes are related to the inspection fees.
Well, we take a
There are
motion
some other
to
changes, but-
table E as well.
I'll make the motion to table item E until the next meeting.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Motion and support, all those in favor say yes.
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 Anybody opposed, say no. 11.3, public comment. Adjourned.
CD.
Thanks for coming.
Gosh, you're smart.
We're swimming there, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the little specialty
We're
group.
the small but mighty, we're the honor road.
I don't think so.